Hello, good evening, and welcome back. This evening we have the article from The Guardian, which was out today, this afternoon. Tommy Robinson wants to be an MEP, but we in the Northwest can stop him, by Nahela Ashraf. I hope that's how you pronounce your name. My apologies if I'm incorrect. Funny enough, it says, editorially independent, open to everyone. Ironic, given the title here. So, the far-right thug, not at all. He does not call himself far-right. In fact, he calls himself not far-right. So, where are you getting that from? Is standing in the European elections. You have my vote. The voters he claims to stand up for must reject his brand of hatred. I have not seen any hatred, so-called or otherwise, from him, other than the idea that you can't be tolerant of intolerance. If there are people out trying to kill you, then don't let them get away with it. You can't be tolerant of that. So, Tommy Robinson, or Stephen Yaxley Lennon, if we want to refer to him by his real name, so that's dead naming. And if you look at the Wikipedia article for transphobia, it does give a definition of dead naming, which comes from this article by Splinter from Meredith Ramirez-Tolucen, I believe, what dead naming means and why you shouldn't do it to Caitlyn Jenner, and it says, in particular, trans people are dead named as a way to silence and shame us, which I think is exactly what this Guardian writer is trying to do. Some would say this only applies to trans people, in which case they are getting privileges that the rest of society don't get, and are, of course, not being oppressed, but quite the opposite, which counts as the earlier point by Frankie Boyle, if you remember that, harkening back to a few videos ago. So, announced last week that he's standing for the northwest of England. Yes, that was in Wythenshawe, where they were trying to bring people together and give them burgers and hot dogs until being told that they couldn't do that, as it was being seen as bribery. Yes, Clown World, people. Clown World. The former British National Party member wants to take the same seat that his then leader Nick Griffin held from 2009 to 2014. Tommy Robinson is a far-right thug. How are you defining that at all? You're not giving any evidence for that, and all we know is what he said, which is quite to the contrary of that. So, here are the lies in the first paragraph. Well, even in the heading. But anyway, who went from being a member of the BNP to co-founding the English Defence League. Yes, which was against radical Islam and extremism. Are you defending that? I know that you are of Islamic belief yourself. You're a mid-40s female Muslim, I believe. I hope you're not defending terrorism, but if you're against him who's against terrorism for that reason, then that suggests you are. I'm not saying you are. Maybe you're misinformed, but that is where your stance will logically take you. Tommy talks about standing up for ordinary working class people, but he is not interested in real solutions to the problems faced by the working classes in the Northwest. Well, what he's trying to do is get rid of more problems from illegal immigration and people who don't want the UK, but just want to get paid. As we say, 80% of Muslims in the UK are not working, but they are instead claiming benefits due to their religious privileges, which means they don't need to wait 26 weeks from leaving a job to gain benefits, as they can claim that they left for religious reasons. If it's handling pork, working with people of the opposite sex, or handling alcohol, then they can collect benefits straight away. His answer to the despair people feel after more than a decade of austerity, yes, to people who aren't of Islamic descent, and Tory attacks on the welfare state, is to scapegoat Muslims and migrants. No, it's to try and say we should get equal law for everybody, we shouldn't have first and second class citizens, and he's talking about migrants who are economic migrants, essentially, gaining citizenship to the UK under false pretenses, and people who claim to be under 18 but are not at all. Robinson's English Defence League was an inspiration for far-right terrorist Anders Breivik, who killed 77 people in Norway in 2011, something which Tommy devoured at the time and has continued to do so since then. He's done his best to stoke Islamophobia and stir hatred and division his whole political life. No, he hasn't. He's tried to show what the Islam, and particularly the Hadith, teach, and has written to very well, selling books from it. If he just wanted money, he would have continued down that route, as that was doing very well for him. Darren Osborne, the terrorist who attacked Finsbury Park Mosque, killing a man, instead of Sri Lanka bombings, which is 200. hindering 600 as well. Brainwashed by far-right material. Please define that, including social media posts by Robinson, according to his partner Sarah Andrews. Again, not something that Tommy Robinson encourages. In fact, I am involved in a couple of Tommy Robinson group chats on Telegram, and they do the same thing. If anybody starts to say, what about the Jews, or uses 3 brackets or anything like that, then they are instantly disavowed and say, hey, no, we're not for that. You can go find a different group if you want, but that's not why this platform is here. Go away. And that is the overarching theme of it. For the first time, we have a generation who don't believe things are going to be better than they were for their parents. Yes, because a lot of the times on the left, they preach cynicism and not hope and optimism for the future, and saying that you can make a change and you can achieve things if you try. It's basically the American dream. Yes, I know, but still, that should be the case for liberalism and optimism and essentially capitalism, that if you work hard and you put your skills to work for you, then you will achieve. Provide value to other people's lives. As they say, if you want $1 billion, do something that will help 1 billion people. What can you give that you can get $1 from 1 billion people? Added to this, we have the hostile environment towards migrants created by leading Tories from Jacob Rees-Mogg. Jacob Rees-Mogg, who doesn't like Tommy Robinson and has of course spoken out about him, and Jacob Rees-Mogg, who says that we shouldn't be able to criticise Islam, not Muslims, but Islam. Stop conflating the two. When I met Tommy Robinson yesterday, I was able to speak to him and say just that, I thank you for maintaining to discern between Muslims and Islam, as I think it is a very important difference. And he said, yeah, that's exactly the point. We also spoke briefly about Carl Benjamin and the Daily Mail smearing him and those lies, but that has been debunked very well by another YouTuber called Tainted Blade. I obviously don't need to shout him out, as he's much bigger than me. Retweeting statements by a key figure from a far-right party in Europe and the detention and deportation of people from the Windrush generation, Home Secretary Sajid. Okay, before we go on, yes, people with all sorts of different ideologies can still have coherent points that are worth talking about. I also spoke to a self-proclaimed fascist a few days ago, not when Tommy Robinson was there. This was a different thing, and we were speaking openly instead, and I'm much more liberal about these things and allowing people to do what they want from an individual basis. And as we followed through his points in a logical manner, he was starting to come around and thinking, maybe you've got points, maybe I shouldn't be so totalitarian in my views. And so, well, that's exactly the point, that you're not going to be able to change these people's minds if you keep silencing them. Which is why it's good that The Guardian says editorially independent, open to everyone, but it doesn't seem like they are. So, Home Secretary Sajid Javid rushing back from his Christmas break to announce the deployment of patrol boats against refugees crossing the Channel. Again, this isn't against refugees necessarily, it is about how you define these people, and of course, going by the global agreement and the United Nations, it is to the first safe country. But because the European Union is one big bloc, that they just allow free movement across the entire European Union and can pick up passports from Germany, for example, and then move to where they have a good social state, like in the United Kingdom, all the more reason to leave. Donald Trump's been invited for a state visit. Woohoo! I look forward to it this summer. Trump, like Tommy Robinson, represents the politics of hatred and division. Not at all. Make America great, and trying to unite people together with a common understanding and with speech and empathy to try to understand people, let people express their views and not be silenced, is not at all hatred or division. In Europe, Trump's victory was celebrated by the far right. Well, it will be celebrated surely by everybody, right of centre. How are you going to define that? If somebody campaigns on a right-leaning base, then it's going to be the people right of centre who are going to prefer that candidate. The announcement of, especially against Hillary Clinton, crikey, the announcement of a state visit only helps to normalise this type of politics of free speech, allowing people to speak their mind, rationalising their points. Perfect. It creates a space for Tommy Robinson, a racist, and Nazis everywhere. I see you're trying to align Tommy Robinson with racists and Nazis, two types of people who he disavows. In fact, after leaving the EDL, something that you don't mention, because he was concerned with extremism within the ranks, he said moving forward he would try and dispel extremism everywhere. In fact, we have that from the Wikipedia page, that when he left, over concerns of the dangers of far-right extremism in particular, and Robinson said, "I acknowledge the dangers of far-right extremism and the ongoing need to counter Islamist ideology, not with violence, but with better democratic ideas." And that is exactly what he's doing with the European elections as well, which is to say, hey, let's follow the letter of the law and vote me in, and I'll do what I can. And this goes against what American companies are trying to do with election meddling in like Twitter by taking down Tommy Robinson's campaign account and Carl Benjamin's campaign account. So I know we're getting on, so we'll skip through this soon. So already we've seen a rise in attacks against Muslims and Muslim women in particular. I was attacked in a fish and chip shop in London, and while the incident was widely reported, there are countless incidents that never get attention. If you'd like to know more about that, I have this from the Manchester Evening News. Men, Muslim woman spat at and racially abused during business trip to London. So, who did this? Oh yes, so the female author is the lady in the middle. So, we have here... It says, or is it hidden? Okay. Here we are. The suspect is described as a male of Arab appearance, aged in his 30s, about 5 foot 9 inches, facial hair, and a non-British accent. Even though it says this assault is being treated by police as a racially motivated hate crime. So you can add that to your statistics. The comments of this article from a couple of years ago, I believe, 14th of January 2017, yep, a couple of years ago, are not supporting her at all. If we scroll down, this person saying, if you don't like our ways, please go home, which is basically saying go to a country that you want to assimilate to and want to be a part of. Quite harsh rhetoric. I would definitely rephrase that in case there is misunderstanding. And it's basically just people disagreeing with the lady. In fact, somebody does point out that it was... Yeah, so it's not the British way, and her attacker was not British, as people seem to agree with. Here we have some lovely little hopefuls. The proportional representation system in the European elections means that Robinson needs only a small percentage of the vote to win a seat. Yes, I believe it's about 9%. This could be his best chance to enter mainstream politics. Come on, Tommy! Robinson may be the poster boy of the far right, not at all. I can't remember the name of the Christchurch shooter, but it's obviously better to not do that. The guy who was radicalised in France by seeing the results of their immigration policies and allowing anti-France people into France. And obviously that goes through generationally, as the people responsible for the Charlie Hebdo massacre were born in France and raised in France. Yes. Obviously not of French descent, though. Working-class people in the Northwest have a history of seeing off the far right. Got rid of Nick Griffin, could do the same with Robinson. So, if people are supporting Tommy Robinson, then you're saying he's not far right, even though that's an innocuous term that you can't define. Whether we vote to leave or remain, we must stand up to racism and stop this thug. Well, you voted leave. But you don't like that, do you? On 23rd of May, we must use our vote to keep Tommy Robinson in the European Parliament. Okay, he's not in, but yes, get him in. Co-chair of Greater Manchester, stand up to racism. Yeah, and that's exactly what Tommy Robinson would support as well. Moving on to The Sun. This is from a couple of days ago. I just wanted to point this out because it says, Tommy Robinson EU campaign account suspended by Twitter. Suspended, that's hopeful. As it emerges, he could get £2 million of taxpayers' cash if elected. Yep. But says would receive an annual salary of £86,700 plus a further £258,600 from the EU for staff and £47,244 for his office and travel costs. But he could gain more if he joins another political group, as the EU encourages common political minds to group together. Yes, and he doesn't mention it at all, but he is going to donate 100% of his salary to charities to support victims of child grooming and rape gangs. Doesn't mention that at all, but he's going to put his money where his mouth is completely and donate 100% of his salary to charity. That is on his posters, his leaflets, of which he's had to put stickers on, I put some stickers on as well, to put his address on so that they are legally binding. And I have a few of those to hand out to people and to leave in conspicuous places, fall out of my pocket, and all that good thing. Yes, so that is it for today. They're the two latest smear pieces from the British mainstream media, and I just wanted to bring them to your attention to say how he is continually to be lied about. I'm going to be reporting more on Tommy Robinson as we build up to the 23rd of May, and of course afterwards, and I hope with a lovely celebration. So until next time, I've been Wasp News Media, and I will see you next time. Bye.